Welcome, 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 welcome to Clever Orbits. This is Louis Brandmeier, one of the founders, no, not that kind of founder, of the podcast, along with...
I knew it. Tyler Brandmeier.
Hello?
And Richard Futrell.
Wow, good to have you guys here today. We are discussing the most recent Discovery episode, known as, somebody else want to do the title?
What's Past is Prologue.
That was the worst impression of a voice other than yours that I have ever heard you do, Richard.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thought it was pretty
maybe
good.
Maybe next time. Yeah. So what did you guys think about this one? I've got some notes, not too many, but yeah.
I have mixed feelings about it.
I mean, I enjoyed it the first time through. I kind of felt like it was an action film. It was an action film, which, that's great. I mean, the pacing, the music, the visuals, those were all wonderful. The plot twist at the end where they, went forward in time 9 months, that was interesting. Actually, Richard, I like to think that your favorite part of the episode was the Long Live the Empire sticker on the ceiling.
Oh, I missed that.
Really? You didn't see that?
No.
Yeah.
It was a sticker. It was on the ceiling of the lab, and it said, Long Live the Empire. And it was like, but no. So, yeah, I was kind of disappointed at the other Stamets being killed. I thought the acting was good. It was pretty tightly paced. The Buran looked cool. The phaser fight in the hallway was good. The new Jeffries tube looked cool. But, overall, it was pretty much an action film. And on After Trek, one of the writers, Ted Sullivan, compared it to Die Hard. So, if you like Die Hard, I guess you like this episode.
Jason Isaacs also compared it to Shakespeare, which I think is inaccurate.
It begins and ends with the title, which is apparently a reference to The Tempest.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I got a bit of a rant about this episode. Really,
Please.
I was set off by watching After Trek. I was watching After Trek, and the writer, I guess Ted Nelson, said that, what he was trying to set out to do with the mirror universe was to talk about how we're living in a mirror universe now. Just look at, what's going on politically in the U.S. and in the UK. And that just kind of set me off because, he's just pissing on, half the population of the UK and the U.S. and telling them that they basically live in the mirror universe and that their morality is apparently just comic book evil, and that's his understanding of their way of life. And I found that, and, having seen that made me go back and sort of, unfortunately, negatively evaluate a lot of this episode. The fact that Lorca stands up and gives a speech that's supposed to be the speech that justifies the mirror universe ethos, where he says the strong will rise, the competent will rise. And the episode doesn't really offer an argument against that. It doesn't present the argument well, and it doesn't really present an argument against it. They just, instead of making an argument against that, the Federation guys just kill him. Or rather, Giorgio kills him. But it's, I feel like in the very beginning of Discovery with T'Kuvma, the very first shot was him delivering what I thought was going to be an intellectually interesting challenge to the Federation ethos. And that's degenerated now into just if you believe something else, you live in a comic book dark universe world and you're, comically evil and you should be shot. So, yeah, that just really rubbed me the wrong way. And I enjoyed the action aspects of this episode. I enjoyed it quite a bit before I watched After Trek and realized it was actually this just totally brain-dead political allegory.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, I mean...
Sorry to inject that negativity, but I got to tell it like I feel it.
No, it's definitely a political allegory. I saw that when he says we're going to make the Empire great again.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So when he says that the strong will rise and they should be the leaders, I agree with him. Because the alternative is having weak leaders and incompetent leaders, and that's bad, right? That results in disaster. He didn't, I feel like there's an interesting discussion to be had here, and we didn't get it. We just got him, in his dark room, and he's evil because he hangs out in dark rooms, and then he gets shot.
I mean, he is kind of, the comic book evil issue is a big issue, I think, potentially with the whole episode. He's not that interesting because he's comic book evil.
I found T'Kuvma a lot more interesting, and he had a lot of similar arguments. And I feel like this is just, okay, I've said my piece.
No, it's a good piece. I think that there could have been some more subtlety added into his character and into the whole portrayal of the mirror universe. You notice I almost called it the moral universe?
No, the Federation guys are from the moral universe. But there's nothing about, I'd like to see a scenario where the fact that they believe in equality and diversity and stuff allows them to win. But that's not what happens. They win because they shoot. Like, of course, Saru is the captain of the Discovery, which is a cool inversion because the Kelpians are food in the Mirror Universe world, and here's a Kelpian captaining a ship. But nothing about what he does depends on him being Kelpian.
And, there's an interesting wrinkle in that, too, when Lorca basically says, hey, if you guys over on that ship stop believing in the Starfleet ideology, I'd take you all on as crew right now. And assuredly, more than just Saru are aliens on that ship.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
So the Mirror Universe, that we entered the Mirror Universe and said they're xenophobic and racist. Well, they're not racist because they had a woman. Yeah, I mean, there was a black woman in the throne room. They're apparently not sexist because the woman was the emperor and no one said anything about it. They're not even xenophobic either, really. They're just evil. They're just in the dark, basically, and so they're evil.
Yeah. So maybe they were drawn incoherently. That's okay. I think, I really didn't notice too much that I absolutely adored about this episode. I mean, the Spore transit visuals were absolutely beautiful. Stamets
cool.
Doubling and tripling in the middle of that was kind of interesting. I was curious what was actually going on, but I'm sure we'll never know. Let's see, the helm console, I finally realized this, on the Discovery actually looks like a Delta shield, which was cool from the side. When you're looking at it from the point of view of the view screen, which I was like, that's a nice little detail. And then have you guys seen the trailer for the next one?
Yep.
So what I think happened is the Mirror Universe Discovery was in the Prime Universe causing trouble. And that's why they get the response. Yeah. So anyway, for what that's worth. But mostly
they're having trouble with Captain Killy.
Yeah, I don't think they had. Well, yeah, you're right. It did have Captain Killy, so that's a thing. It was a decent episode. I think I give it a B-, but I'm skipping ahead past you guys' comments. So, you tell me what you guys thought. Sorry, Tyler.
I'm just really glad Michelle Yeoh got to punch and kick things, especially Lorca.
So what do you make of the fact that Michael Burnham saved Georgiou and took her back to the regular universe?
Oh, that's a great question.
I think she's just clearly motivated by regret.
Yeah.
Georgiou is clearly going to be pissed a lot, continually.
I think she should be. And here's how I see this. Georgiou was about to go into a death that she felt satisfied in. And there's no real greater gift, is there really, than to die knowing you're doing something meaningful and good and to feel satisfied going into that. And Michael Burnham took that from her on her own selfish desire to keep her and because she didn't respect her morality, basically. The Federation people do not respect the morality of the Mirror Universe people. Just like what Takuma was complaining about.
You're right. You're 100% right.
It's like in the guise of being, rah, we're the most moral. They deprive everyone else of a meaningful death, which is like the most valuable thing.
Well, you knew that it's funny because she talks about if you just asked, we would have sent you back, right?
Yeah.
Even though probably if they had found out that we would send you back, like if that's a thing, if they would have found out why he wanted to go back, they probably would not have sent him back.
Yeah, I want to go back and take over an empire xenophobe. A Federation might not go through with that.
But then again, there's also the Prime Directive, which they might have applied. Prime Directive only applies to civilizations without warp technology, right?
Yeah.
Or the internal matters of another society. So I guess it might not. I don't know. Does somebody else remember the Prime Directive a little better than me?
I'm pretty sure it's pre-warp civilization.
Well, that's usually what gets portrayed, but I also feel like it's the internal politics of society too.
Once you get a warp drive, you don't have any more privacy. Federation's going to be mucking with your stuff.
Wow, the Federation's the Federation actually leaves individual societies sovereign, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And they each have one.
Just like Michael Burnham let Philippa Georgiou make her sovereign choice on how to die.
Hey, I'm not saying that they aren't questionable. I'm just saying, yeah. So let's go into this. The Prime Directive of Non-Interference, also known as the Prime Directive or the Non-Interference Directive, were the colloquial terms for the Federation Starfleet's General Order 1. The Prime Directive dictated that no Starfleet personnel knowingly interfere with the natural progression of pre-warp civilizations. I guess that's it.
I'd like to see the episode of, like, Next Generation where Lorca shows up from the Mirror Universe and they have to debate about whether to send him back or not, or on that long table. That would be a good episode.
I can already see the Honest trailer now. Talking, and more talking, and even more talking.
Data reveals an incredible insight coming from his outsider and childish perspective.
Riker sleeps with an alien.
Counselor Tor reminds the people that logic isn't everything. Well, no. You know what I mean.
So, my next question is, Tyler, what did you love about this episode?
Well, visually stunning, I'll agree. Especially, I thought the fight in the throne room was well choreographed. And
that's right, the fights were pretty cool the first time through.
Yeah, I think, what was Steven's comment when we were watching the phaser fight near the beginning of the episode between Lorca's followers and the Empress, the Emperor?
I think he might have said, hey, they thought of everything.
Yeah, that it was an elaborate fight by Trek standards as far as phaser fights go. So, I thought that was pretty exciting.
That scene where all the laser lights came on. That was cool for that moment.
Yeah.
I liked Georgiou's emergency transport move. I'd like to see more of that in Star Trek fights.
You know, I think because it was so devoid of any chewy moral or intellectual content, I mean, it had character stuff, and it had good character moments. Like, Tyler, you noticed the one between Tilly and Stamets and how that was earned and how it was well done. But because it didn't have any real intellectual content to, like, chew on, I feel like it might actually deserve a C+.
Yeah, I'd give it a B- based on my initial watching, and then it plummeted.
Really? What do you have it at now?
I don't know. I might give it a C-. I might give it a D. Might be on the verge of. What happens when one of these episodes fails? Do they have to retake the class? Do they have to remake the episode?
I'm pretty sure they don't care about our ratings. It's already been picked up for season 2, and so what we can hope is that they will change it so that it's better for the. Yeah, and I will definitely watch it. I mean, yeah.
I'm going through.
That would be really interesting.
I liked.
Well,
I really like
just real quick.
I like the lighting in a lot of scenes. There's always a lot of really good colors in this show. And
the visuals are always exquisite and beautiful. The scenery, the fights, all of it.
In that scene where Michael Burnham was talking to Philippa in Philippa's basement or cellar or whatever, there's this great orange on blue. It's very visually striking.
Oh yeah.
So what do you all think is going to happen in the future? Looks like Sarek's going to mind meld with Saru to get some info out of him, and the Admiral's going to take over the ship.
Yeah, that was actually really cool that she was able to take over the ship like nothing. No Admiral has ever done that. It seems like Admirals should want to do that more often.
Well, it's war. I don't think Federation Admirals really think about that stuff. Besides plotting to, take over everything else. I don't know if they just want one starship. They probably just want the whole Federation to themselves, historically.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Most Admirals are actually evil.
So.
Except Admiral Cook.
Well, he becomes a captain again, so he couldn't last as an admiral because he's not really.
Yeah, he wasn't evil enough.
Maybe all the admirals come from the Mirror Universe.
Shit.
Maybe. In
the Mirror Universe, the admirals are upstanding individuals and the captains are evil.
In the Shatnerverse novels, there was a long campaign on the part of the Mirror Universe in the Terran Empire to systematically replace people from our universe with theirs. So it was kind of an invasion.
Huh.
So what are your concluding thoughts on this episode?
I wish I could have liked it more. I'm still looking forward to the next episode, though.
Me too. I'm on this train. I'm going to see this thing through to the end.
I'm glad we're out of the mirror universe. I feel like that was fun, and it had its time.
Yeah. I still enjoy Discovery.
Are we going to wrap up the Klingon War? And there's only one episode left, right? Or
2 episodes, including the next one.
Going to wrap it up in 2 episodes?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, these things are dense. So, I mean, like, I think one clear sign that we've had enough of the mirror universe is when you have Long Live the Empire on a sticker on the ceiling. I think it was either Steven or Tyler who said, hey, you know, that is actually too much. We don't need that. We need to leave. Time to go.
I think I still like Discovery, despite itself.
I was kind of hoping they would end up in a third universe when they were going back to the regular universe, going through those branching paths.
I keep waiting for that. It feels like we're getting teases of multiple realities that we're going to explore, but it's sort of just not.
Yeah, I think that answers why they're not going to be able to time travel back in time to change the timeline, is because I think with the Admiral directly in command, and with their knowledge of what the spore drive was to Stamets, because it was doing stuff to him. He's not okay. I mean, he was really messed up for a while, and then he got even more messed up. It was like wide eyes and all that. But and now that he's just less messed up, it doesn't mean that he's not messed up, and it doesn't mean that he should ever use it again. We just we don't need that. So they're probably stuck 9 months in the future.
I mean, that's
probably
not so bad, really.
In that thing again. Yeah.
I mean, like, everyone, I guess, thought you were dead. That sucks. But being 9 months in the future, that doesn't really seem like a huge loss.
They lost 20% of Federation space.
They're going to win
Actually,
it back.
Doesn't seem like a huge loss either.
I was a little disconcerted when they said they didn't even receive an automated response from Starfleet Command.
Yeah, that was where I was thinking maybe it's a third universe where there is no Starfleet and maybe there are no humans or something. It's just like eerily empty.
That would have been cool. Boldly go.
Maybe they go to a yet other universe where life never develops and it's just kind of boring.
Just look at a lot of rocks.
I mean, that might be an interesting episode where, the ship just goes from new universe to new universe, and they experience a whole bunch of different stuff.
That forking path stuff that Stamets was going through was really very provocative imagery. It really seems like there's a universe that you get by going down every path. It's very cool.
Repeat that?
That forking path imagery that Stamets was going through, that he was guiding the ship through. It really seems like at every single path you'd end up in a different universe. It was very, very good imagery. It really made it seem like there's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, I thought it was really kind of weird and interesting that the visuals were on the view screen as well as Stamets' mind.
Yeah, that was interesting. That was interesting. I guess that's what they were really seeing.
I mean, I guess they always see things during the jump.
So do you think they're going to keep the spore drive after this season?
No, I don't think. I have no idea what they're going to do for next season. I mean, like,
going to do Star Trek stuff, man. Going to explore. It's going to be great.
Exploring space. Yeah. In retrospect, what they did was kind of exciting. But I feel like, if I tried to sell Star Trek to somebody, like, all right, so what's exciting? What do you usually do in Star Trek? Exploring space, diplomacy, philosophical quandaries.
Who's that?
So,
what?
Hey, this is Frank.
What? Frank?
Huh?
Who's Frank?
What?
Hi. I'm here to tell you about a show that's on TV. You may have heard of it, called Star Trek Discovery.
We have a broadcast intrusion.
Oh, we were just talking about that. What?
Intruder
Who
alert.
invited you?
No one. Just decided to crash this podcast.
I should have never given you the conference call line number.
I've been telling you about that, Lewis. Just hand that out like
candy. Stop giving it to everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, you really shouldn't give that information out to strangers, Lewis.
Well, I'm not inviting you to comment on the episode.
Okay, good, because I was going to just go ahead and comment anyway. So, I've been told that you guys are really big fans of Star Trek Discovery.
It's possible.
Okay.
We are. Do you have problems with it?
So, well, I like the show. I just caught up on all the episodes recently, and I saw I didn't see Sundays, but I've seen up to the big reveal. Oh wait, can I reveal spoilers, or is that allowed? That came through?
We're ahead of you with
the
episode.
All about spoilers.
So yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, yeah. So I saw the episode where it turns out that Captain Isaac, I'm going to call him that because that's kind of his real name. He turns out to be evil. He's from the Mirror Universe, and that was a great twist. And I think that the producers have done a great job of planting all those little clues along the way, and then giving us that reveal. It was great. But one of the things I noticed is that everyone kind of loves the show for certain reasons, and some people hate the show for other reasons. And I just wanted to give my own 2 cents about maybe why some people don't like the show for the wrong reasons, and like kind of restore the balance to the Force in a way. So the show is great in terms of getting you to care about characters. It's like really good at that. And I rewatched the pilot episode recently, and man, they do a great job of just throwing a whole bunch of new characters at you, and then you immediately like them and want them to succeed and all that stuff. But they kind of do it at the expense of some plot and some common sense. And so one of the things I noticed is that in the 3rd episode, Commander Michael Burnham has been disgraced from Starfleet, and she's on her way to prison for seemingly the rest of her life, which seems kind of harsh, but whatever, it's the Federation. They know best, I guess. And she's on that shuttlecraft going through the nebula, and they have a little problem where the space bugs start eating their wires, and they're about to die. And so a couple of things about that scene just really stood out to me and bugged me, and I realized it was just really lazy writing. So you see that she's sitting on one side of the shuttlecraft interior, and then there's 3 other prisoners who are also in transit on the other side. So you clearly know right away from that shot and from the ensuing dialogue that she's separate from them. She's a prisoner, but she's also not like them. And yet the producers felt the need to put her in a different colored prison jumpsuit. She's in yellow, and I think the others were in like kind of a grayish blue. And then they put the Starfleet Delta on her jumpsuit, which is like, why? Why do they need to do that? She's already been stripped of rank. She's no longer a part of Starfleet in any way. It's the equivalent of a modern military like dishonorable discharge. So she's not employed by Starfleet anymore. And yet they stuck that on her. And the only reason is because they want the audience to know that, hey, she's different. She was once a Starfleet officer. That's just lazy writing, in my opinion, and like just like clubbing the audience over the head with the obvious. And then the other thing is, in the ensuing dialogue, like they basically recap her whole backstory for the last 2 episodes. So then the situation progresses. They're like, oh, shit, we're going to die. And the pilot of the shuttlecraft leaves the shuttlecraft in an EV suit to go outside and take care of the bugs. And then the next thing you know, like on cue with the dialogue of this spoken by the prisoners inside, you see the shuttlecraft pilot like drifting helplessly in front of the shuttle. So to like drive home the point that now they're really screwed. But that's not how physics works in space. They were traveling. It's established they were moving forward in the shuttlecraft, and short of some explosion that would have rocketed that pilot forward, which there was no indication of in the episode, there's no reason she should be like tumbling head over heels in space in front of the shuttlecraft. If anything, if her EV, if her link from the EV suit to the shuttlecraft got broken or something, she'd either be drifting sideways and parallel or backwards. So anyway, and then the other thing is they never mention that pilot again. So immediately after the situation looks grim, the Discovery materializes out of the nebula cloud in this great visual effect shot, and it's very majestic. and they're saved. The prisoners are saved, and they're brought on board the hangar bay. But they never mention what happened to that pilot. So presumably she's just still drifting endlessly through space, and they just forgot about her. So that's one thing. And then as the series progresses, there's all this cool plot with the Cleons and like an infiltrator agent among their ranks and all this stuff. But that's kind of like I felt like in the second to last episode as of this podcast recording, that wasn't really paid off. And maybe since I haven't seen this latest episode, they explain that better. But so Voke is somehow like his consciousness is grafted onto Lieutenant Ash Tyler's, and then there's all that drama about he's in love with Michael Burnham and she trusts him, but then he turns out to be her enemy. Very dramatic, very cool. But then she beams him off the Shenzhou, the mirror universe Shenzhou, and somehow miraculously the Discovery is waiting within transporter range to pick him up from certain death and beam him into their brig. And so he's able to, they're able to keep employing that actor for a little while longer. And then in that next episode,
sure that they called him, or they called the Discovery. In one of those scenes, she found a console and she sent a message. She's the captain. Everything she sends is encrypted anyway. Her channel was
that wasn't actually established in that episode. If you go back and watch,
they didn't have to establish it. I mean, like, it was something that was left out, which made it dramatic, confusing, and questionable at that point. You were like, wait, what just happened? How did that happen? But it can happen. They established earlier that she's able to set up secure channels and that she can communicate with the Discovery basically at will. She talks to Captain Tilly. So, like, all she needs is a minute away from other people, which, for all we know, she could have gone to the bathroom.
But here's the thing. So this show, Discovery, hasn't quite established this, but in previous shows, there's a certain range that Starfleet can beam people to and from. So that range is usually like, if they're orbiting a planet, which means that at most they're like, say, 300 miles away from the surface of a planet, they can beam a person to and fro. Of course, the movies totally changed this too, but whereas sensor range is like light years. Like somehow they can detect ships that are light years away through long-range sensors, and then communication is the same thing. Like parsecs away, they can exchange communication. And in Discovery, it's established that they somehow have holographic communication technology now that can traverse, like most of the Alpha Quadrant apparently. So like communication long distance, that's fine. But in order for the Discovery to be within transporter range, unless they're using that weird transwarp teleporting technology that got introduced in the reboot movies, the Shenzhou would be able to detect that the Discovery was like close to them, close enough for transporter range. But they never mention that. So anyway, this is, again, it's kind of like, it's lazy writing that serves a purpose. Steven Spielberg is notorious for this. In the end of the original Jurassic Park, at the climax of the movie, Grant and the kids are inside the Jurassic main exhibit, and the velociraptors are surrounding them, and it's like, oh, they're definitely going to die now. But then the T-Rex just appears out of nowhere and starts fighting the velociraptors, and it's awesome, except it makes no sense. How is a T-Rex just hiding in a corner unbeknownst to these people? So, yeah. But see, you don't think about that stuff because it's entertaining, because in the moment you're just caught up in like, fucking A, T-Rex is fighting 3 velociraptors, awesome. But yeah, if you sit down and think about it, it makes no sense. And so that's kind of what I see with this is like, they sacrifice some of the more like plot sort of ideas for this thing of like, let's have this awesome, twisty-turny dramatic moment where we're going to take the audience's guts and swing them on this like emotional pendulum, and it totally it works if you are like along for that ride. I just kind of look at these things now and like I'm like, man, they could have, okay, that makes sense, but they could have maybe done that a little bit better. So anyway, that was the other thing is like Tyler's saved, and then he goes on to the med bay later in the next episode, and then L'Rell has to somehow like remove the Voke personality from Tyler, and it almost seems like the Voke personality has been destroyed because she gives that Cleon funeral cry, and I'm sure like there's more revealed about that. But in that particular episode, it just made me question, like, well, why is she doing that? I get that she's concerned that Tyler was self-harming himself, and so she had to do something. But Cleons are already established as, you know, being pretty tough on their bodies anyway. So anyway, that was another thing. And then the final thing is just kind of Lieutenant, or is she? I forget what rank she is now, but Michael Burnham. So you know, she's kind of taken under the wing of Captain Isaac, and he's like, you know, helping her. As we discover now, he had ulterior motives for helping her, but initially we think, oh, he's like kind of a fatherly figure, and he wants to give her a second chance, and then she really proves herself. And one of the ways that she does that is with the tardigrade, which was pretty neat. I actually really liked that they introduced the idea of a quantum interdimensional tardigrade. But her story arc has been kind of up and down a lot, and one of the things is like I guess they don't really establish how long exactly they've been in the mirror universe at this point, or as of the previous episode. But she goes between like really emotionally like repressed and just kind of in a dark spot because she has to pretend to be a killer, to all of a sudden just being like her like tip top, I'm officer in charge. We can overcome anything kind of attitude. And it just kind of feels like she's doing those emotional shifts to serve the whims of the writer more than like it making sort of an organic sense. Yeah. So
if you want to say that she hasn't really evolved, I mean, like, I don't think she has ever really needed to shift. I think she's forgiven herself, probably, for what well, no, you know what? Tyler was just saying about the regret that caused her to bring Emperor Giorgio the new universe.
Oh, hey, thanks for ruining that for me, but okay.
You crashed the podcast party, man.
That's true.
Over everybody, which is okay. I think you have a little bit of good content, but mostly complaints.
What?
Yeah.
So I will say this. You know, I saw, thanks to Lewis, I didn't realize they did this like post show now for Star Trek episodes, and so I saw After Trek. After the episode where it was revealed who Captain Isaac's true character is. But one of the things is that they interview the writer on that After Trek episode, and he pointed out this thing that that episode and presumably those characters are modeled after Shakespeare's Macbeth, the tragedy of Macbeth. And for the listening audience who hasn't read Macbeth or is not familiar with that, it's basically about a Scottish lord and his wife who are not kings. There's a king of Scotland, and they covet his power and his throne. And at the manipulation of these three witches, Lord Macbeth begins a plot to take power. And Lady Macbeth, it turns out, is like even more ambitious than her husband is. And so together, there's this bloody uprising where they kill the King of Scotland horribly, and they take power. There's a war, but they win, and they've cemented their seat on the throne. But then it goes terribly awry from there because in Shakespeare's imagining of this tale, it's a morality tale, and so all bad things lead to bad ends, and eventually they die horribly too. And it's a really cool tragedy because it examines the nature of ambition and guilt. And so when the writer mentioned that episode is modeled on that, it was brilliant because I actually do think Michael Burnham, that character, would make a great Lady Macbeth. She is highly ambitious, and except for, you know, they said, I don't know if they've revealed much about her character in the Mirror universe, but the normal universe version, like, she's actually not that far away from kind of becoming that way. She already had to, you know, fight to survive on the Mirror universe Shenzhou to the point where she kills that dude in the turbo lift. And that is totally a reference to Macbeth. Lady Macbeth has a famous scene where she stabs people and like just kills them with a knife, and then even anyway. So yeah, so there's all that. And so I feel like that's really great. That's cool, like way to update a classic character archetype and bring it into this new show. I just wish that when they would like have her kind of showing off this dark side to her a little bit more, it would make sense with the rest of the storyline like it does in Macbeth. And then one other thing. So I keep calling him Captain Isaac because I can't remember his character's name. But anyway, Jason Isaac is the actor's name. But anyway, his character, what's brilliant, too, is, they establish in the Mirror Universe that the Terrans on that side are sensitive to light. And, that was like one of the hints from early on when you introduce him. He has to shoot that thing into his eyeballs, and he's like sensitive to light. I believe, now the writer didn't confirm this, but my theory is that that's a reference to Lord Macbeth. Because after the witches have kind of like planted the idea in his head to mutiny against the king, he has this great soliloquy that's famous among Shakespearean fans, and he says this line about stars, hide your fires, let not the light see my black and deep desires. And I'm convinced that that the writers in Star Trek like took that and turned it almost literal and made it so that he cannot abide the unfiltered light of stars because of his dark soul and his dark nature. So anyway, I think that's brilliant, and they did a really wonderful job of like incorporating those elements of a famous tragedy into this show.
You just made this show cooler. Welcome to Clever Orbits, Frank.
That may be the only time in history someone has said that a reference to Shakespeare has made something cooler. But okay, I'll accept that.
Well, I think it's also interesting because potentially that explains the nature of the people on the planet or in the Terran Empire. Like, if they have trouble looking at light, one might imagine that they would prefer to act during the nighttime. And during the nighttime, there possibly are various predators that you deal with that you wouldn't have to deal with during the light. And in dealing with them, you have to become more vicious, more, violent. That maybe partially explains why those characters are the way that they are. Maybe why the whole Terran Empire is the way that it is. I don't know.
It comes from this tiny difference in their traits, from their ability to perceive light. That's a cool idea.
Someone else should definitely write that story. I would read it. Yeah.
Well, the only thing about that is if they did take it to the logical conclusion, I mean, assuming that's how humans in the Terran Empire evolved from the time of cave people, right? Because you have to go back pretty far to establish that's why they are that way now. If the light sensitivity happened that far back, then what would most likely also happen is that there wouldn't be, unfortunately, black people or brown people. Because if humans are spending most of their time in shelter during the daytime, they need less melatonin to survive, and especially if they're more active at night. So, what would have been very...
Melanin.
Sorry, melanin. Melanin, you're right, not melatonin. Melanin. So that would have been actually kind of cool, because then that would have meant that, like, everyone in the Terran Empire is white-skinned, and they're also highly xenophobic. I think that would have made a far more interesting kind of mirror universe take on things, but, whatever. They decided not to do that.
Well, I mean, yeah, they didn't. Rekha Sharma, for example.
And the fact that Michael Burnham also in the mirror universe apparently has dark skin.
Yeah. Well, thanks for crashing the party. I wish you'd seen the most recent episode. Next time you party, be up to date, man.
I'll take it under advisement.